Welcome to the podcast, A Drink with Derek. Follow comedian Derek Richards on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel and watch all episodes of the podcast. Now grab a drink and join your host, Derek Richards.
Somebody swallows.
Hey, it's Derek Richards here in Las Vegas. It's A Drink with Derek. I'm talking to the gentleman that you saw in the video. One of the gentlemen, despite his short haircut now, long haircut in the William Tell Overture clip of that video that just played there, is my buddy Dean Edwards, who is a singer, dueling piano player at Crocodile Rocks in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where he is at now. You and I go way back, 20 plus years doing comedy before you started doing this. I can't imagine why you would quit doing comedy. Was the allure of that $70 a year just not going to do it for you anymore?
That was part of it. That was a big part of it.
I'm sure of that.
Well, that and comedy's hard. Comedy's difficult.
And playing it. All right. I'll give you that. But before we get into that here, you are, again, you're a regular Crocodile Rocks in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Broadway at the beach. If you are vacationing people, you need to stop by there. It is one of the most fun, cool hangouts that you can go to. And you're there almost pretty much every night they're open, aren't you?
Pretty much, yeah. You'll see me at least 4 nights a week there. Yeah. Well,
I'm going to ask you a couple quick questions here before we get started. In this culture that we have right now of everything being canceled, Aunt Jemima or Mrs. Butterworth, which one needs to go, Dean, in your mind? Which one has outraged you to the point where it needs to be taken off the market? Aunt Jemima or Mrs. Butterworth?
I'm going to say, I'd say Mrs. Butterworth, because, you know, I like the name Jemima a lot more than Butterworth sounds too wealthy. Butterworth is the word Butterworth just oozes privilege. It has to go. Jemima all the way.
Your favorite Dr. Seuss book?
Oh my God. Horton Hears a Hoe.
A hoe. Okay, I like that. That's the urban version of that.
I never much got into that, but what would it be? I have to say this is too easy, but Green Eggs and Ham, because I've made a lot of money off of Green Eggs and Ham. We used to do a bit in the dueling piano gig that many people requested. So I've made my share of royalties off of Green Eggs and Ham, which I feel very good for. Yeah.
The doctor has paid you well off of Green Eggs and Ham. Okay.
Yeah.
Song that you never want to hear again. There's got to be a million of them, but tell me the one that absolutely makes you lose your blasted mind when you hear it.
If I never hear Sweet Child of Mine or Welcome to the Jungle, I personally don't get why Guns N' Roses was ever really that great. They were never my go-to. But again, I've made a lot of money off of their songs. So Sweet Child of Mine, Hotel California, never want to hear it again. And of course, Piano Man, obviously. If I never hear that again, it'll be too soon. But yeah, The first one that came to mind was Sweet Child of Mine. I'm just over it. I'm over
That's
it.
so funny. I would have guessed maybe like Sweet Caroline from Neil Diamond or Don't Stop Believin'. I did not see the Sweet Child of Mine thing coming out, but that's the beauty of you. You keep me guessing. I've known you 20 plus years, and there's still things I learn about you that surprise me.
Yeah, no, Don't Stop Believin' is that's our most requested song, and
I'm sure it is.
Since I've grown a new love for that though, since we started implementing guitar into that, and now I get to show off my Neil Sean guitar chops in that song. So I have a new love for that song.
Well, now you've been, like I said, you and I met each other in comedy years ago, 20 plus years ago. I believe it was in West Palm Beach was the first time that we had met, and then we had subsequently worked together in Nashville. After that, if I'm not mistaken, was Nashville first?
Yeah, Nashville was first.
Nashville, Zany's in Nashville the first time. And that was, if I'm not mistaken, when we were working with John Pinette, the late John Pinette, God rest his soul.
Yeah. I've got a picture of that. I have to send you that.
I know.
I've got three of us, yeah.
Picture of the three of us. I remember you sent me that a while ago. And the bathrooms went out at the club.
Yes.
You remember this? And there was a house across the street from the comedy club that the comedians stayed in. And by comedians, I mean you and I. John Pinette stayed in a nice hotel because that's how this works in the pecking order of the business.
House is a very loose term too.
Yes, exactly. It was sort of a.
It was an accommodation.
Yes, it was a place where you could lay your head. There were homeless people in refrigerator boxes that looked at us and went, "Wow, thank God we're not staying in that shithole."
Yeah, and if there's comedians that were with us back then, they're gonna know. Oh, I know what they're talking about. Man.
They will know the house, but the bathrooms went out at the comedy club that night. The place is packed. John Pinette, place is rocking, and they literally had people walk across the street and use the bathroom in the house that we were staying in. Remember that they had doormen that were showing people across the street, and somebody was in the house making sure that they weren't obviously robbing it. I don't know what they would want to take. I would have been happy if they would have left something, to be honest with you.
Me too. You know what I remember about that is that you had to tell people. You know, I was the opener, but for some reason Dorfman, and people don't know who the guy that owned the club, Andrew, is it Andrew or Brian? Brian, yeah. Brian. He had you tell people. You were the middle, and he had you tell people. And I remember you being on stage and you going, "Well, folks, the bathrooms are out here, and but don't worry, there's a house across the street." As soon as you said that, people started laughing like it was part of your act. I mean, it sounded like you were doing a bit, and I was like, "That's brilliant." And then you go, "Brian, they're laughing. They don't believe me." And you remember this voice, Brian. This voice comes out of the dark from back, and he goes, "They will."
Just the incredulous look on people's faces, knowing that they had to cross the street to go use a bathroom in this house.
Yeah, someone escorting them.
Somebody escorted them over there, and they went to the bathroom, did their business, and come back. It was the funniest thing. But we had some great stories doing that, and I always cherished our friendship through the years. We've always been in touch. You've been in Myrtle Beach now for, it's got to be at least, I'm guessing, maybe 15, 16 years now?
Oh, man. Next month would be 20 years.
Wow.
20 years. April 2001 is when I first moved here. Now, I've moved away and moved back in those 20 years. But if you, this is my third time to live here. So, and I've lived in Las Vegas twice. I've tried that twice, and Vegas, fun place to visit. I'm happy here, here in Myrtle Beach. But yeah, so if you want to go by that, yeah, that's it. April 2001. So I'm coming up on 20 years at Myrtle Beach.
Well, now, did you study music before? You were into music before, I mean, you and I had started talking about just common music interests that we had when we were hanging out, working together. So, I mean, you've been in music for a long, long time. And now were you playing and doing stuff during comedy? Because you never really incorporated the music into your act. You were never a guitar comic or anything along those lines. I mean, so how did that end up morphing from your music interest to doing comedy and then back into music?
Well, music is something I'd done my whole life since I was 6. I discovered I had an ear for it. My grandmother played by ear. No one else in my immediate family has any kind of musical gift at all, but I got that gift, and my grandmother showed me at 6 years old about piano, and I just found that I could hear a melody and figure it out. And one of my best friends had an older brother who's a fantastic musician. And he was 10 years older than us, and their family was very well off, and so they always had the latest and greatest music equipment. So he was always writing songs. So every time I'd hang out with my best friend, I'd be like, "Did your brother write any new songs?" And I had a next door neighbor who's about 6 years older than me that introduced me to guitar back in the 70s and taught me about who Ted Nugent was and who Deep Purple was and all this stuff. So I always was heavily into music and decided that that's what I wanted to do as a young teenager. But also music is also, it came easy to me as far as playing it, hearing it and playing it. Getting a break was the hard part. Same thing with comedy. Although my comedy thing, I'm not really sure I never had the kind of gift for comedy that I did for music. My comedy career was, I was just really trying to force that, it was so hard for me. But no, when I tried comedy, it's just something I always loved. I always loved comedy. And I was the guy, I was always told you're a funny guy. And I said, I wonder if I could try this. And I just wanted to give it a try. But no, I wasn't doing anything musically, other than just when I was home, just playing what I would normally
Right.
do, play a little bit, listen to some tunes, play, but wasn't doing anything professionally at that point. Never studied it. Never studied it in college. I mean, I'm a completely, self-taught. Nobody's ever really self-taught, but I do everything I do by ear and just.
That's insane. I mean, that is such a gift. It really is. I mean, that's got to be. And again, having not played, I played guitar when I was like in 2nd grade, but I mean, you learning to play and being proficient at it at such a young age. I mean, were you getting groupies at 11 years old? That had to be pretty cool.
No,
little neighbor chicks sneaking up and looking in your window, trying to get a piece of you. There
were no kids in my neighborhood. It was there
were no kids in your neighborhood. Where did you grow up? Afghanistan?
Yeah, well,
there's kids in Afghanistan. How did you have no kids in your neighborhood?
It's not quite Afghanistan. A little town called Columbia, Mississippi. Although there were neighboring neighborhoods where the kids were, but in my immediate neighborhood, no. The only kid was the guy that was 6 years older than me. And by the time I really got into it, he was graduating and already going on to college.
Sure.
So he was lots of retirees in my neighborhood. They would sneak over and peek in and see what I was doing. But
well, that's creepy. Having some geriatric women staring at you at that age. Having whatever creepy fantasies they're having while they're on medication and vodka.
Yeah. Well, they gave me the meds and I did whatever they wanted. So.
Well, this had to help dramatically, coming from where you were doing music, then you went into comedy, and then you started doing the dueling piano thing. Did that just come about, or did you know somebody who was doing it and they said, "Hey, Dean, you should try getting involved in this"? Because your comedy chops had to help you in the dueling piano industry.
Oh yeah. It was, I got into dueling pianos in completely back-assward type of way. I had decided that I was not going to pursue a career in comedy. I had just, Clint Eastwood said, a man's got to know his limitations. And, you and I worked together a few times. I had some solid stuff. I did enough to get some work for 3 or 4 years and middle in a few B rooms. And, I just realized, everybody I was working with, I saw so many people that I thought were so funny. And I just thought, I don't think I can be that funny. And, and then I had to ask myself, well, then what am I doing? If I'm ever going to be anything at this, don't I have to be? at least that funny? And really, don't I have to be funnier than that if I'm going to be successful? So I just kind of, you know, in the late 90s decided, well, I just don't think, you know, comedy is something I love, but it's not my passion.
Right.
And there's so many people, you know, this needs to be left to people who are passionate about it. And I realize, you know, music is easy for me to do. Comedy is not. Comedy was so hard. I had already decided I was just filling out my obligations. I had a couple of weekend gigs left and then a one-nighter here and there. And it just so happened that I was doing a little two-nighter, a Friday, Saturday nighter in Jackson, Mississippi. And there were some people there that enjoyed the show. And I didn't even know this at the time. There was a little piano bar in Jackson, not the kind of thing that I do now and have done for 20 years. This was just really just a little piano bar. And they said, hey, let's all go over to this little piano bar. It's really cool. So we went over there, and they were, I don't remember who I was working with, but they took us over there, and we had drank with them a little bit. And there was a girl playing piano there, and just by herself doing a solo gig. And I had somehow in the conversation with these people said that I was a musician. I do music. You know, at the time I didn't sing though. That's one thing. I never sang back then. I never knew I could sing. The only song I knew how to play all the way through and sing was Rocket Man. And they ended up like daring me to she was doing this solo gig, but there was another piano. So they like asked her, can our friend come up and play? And I didn't want to do it, but I did it. Not very well, because I had never done that. I had never performed music like that. Right. You know, you've done the talent show here or there, but had never sat down at a piano with a microphone and performed for people. I'd never done it. But that was my favorite song at the time, Rocket Man, and I knew it. So I played it, and as soon as she took a break, the girl, her name was Cindy Chin, who's no longer with us, but she's definitely a meeting her was a turning point in my life. It would not be where I am now, not if I hadn't met her. She came and found me and said, what are you, you know, she goes, what do you do? You know, she says, I said, well, I just screw around with music. I'm trying to be a comedian. She says, well, I don't want to get personal, but do you make any money? And I said, it costs me money to do comedy. And so she said, you need to do Dueling Pianos. She said, because you've got a good voice and you've got a good left hand, which is also something I never knew, and I had to develop. But she said, the way you played that with your left hand, not a lot of people can do that. She said, you need to do Dueling Pianos, and she started telling me about the kind of opportunities that were available to it, for it, and the kind of money that was in it. And that's when, you know, I said, I will try this, you know, and she hooked me up with a guy in Vegas who trained people how to do it. And at the time, you know, the piano bar in New York was the hottest piano bar in the country. You know?
Sure.
So I decided this guy was willing to train me. He's willing to let me stay in his house and give me a crash course. And he based purely on her recommendation and me playing that one song, he had already penciled me in for a job of a club someone was consulting with him to open in Oregon. And I just said, you know, I had recently heard a motivational speaker talk about, you know, do what you love. If you do what you love, you won't work, you know. And I honestly, music comes easiest to me. It's what I love to do. I know I'm good at it. And, you know, so I'm not funnier than that guy, but I damn sure can play Piano Man better than Derek Richards, you know.
You can play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star better than Derek Richards.
So I just said, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot, man. And in July of 2000, I packed up everything I had in this little. Remember that car I had? I had this really awesome little BMW car.
Yeah, you did.
Really nice car, and people were like, "You're just an opener," you know.
You love that car. I remember it.
Yeah, they're like, you do something besides comedy. I'm like, no, man, I just got a great deal. You know, that's all it was. But yeah, I packed everything I owned in that little car, and I headed out, and the rest is history. It's all I've ever done. It's all I've done since then.
Well, now, how long was it? How long did it take you to train to learn how to do this? Because that's got to be quite a transition, going from being a traditional musician to now all of a sudden you're in a dueling piano setting, working with somebody else, and then you work with somebody else in bands. But in this case, you've got to really develop a rapport with the person across the stage from you. And so how does that unfold? Because you're also not really playing full songs. A lot of times it's like you're not playing all of Piano Man. You know, you'll play half of it, and then you kind of segue into something else. So, I mean, how long did it take you to train to learn how to pick up that skill set?
I was very fortunate in that I got a 2-week crash course in how to do the gig, you know, and I had a leg up because of my stand-up experience. You know, I had a leg up on that, but I didn't have the repertoire. You know, that was what was really scary for me, having the volume of songs that one needs to get through a night of that. So,
how many songs do you need? How many songs do you need to, should you know, or have a good grasp on, in order to even dive into something like this?
At least you should be able to. What they do for pretty much anybody is they give you a list of the top 100 most requested songs, and before you really can work a night, you need to be able to play any of those songs from beginning to end. You know, you need to be able to do any of them. I'd say 100. You know, you can get away with less, but to really feel confident, I would say at least 100. You know, before you're going to work at night, just sitting in and going slowly. Like, we got a guy now that he'll come in and he'll sit in for 15, 20 minutes, and guys work their way in that way. I was literally thrown into the fire. I had a 2-week crash course in how to do the shtick of the gig. And then there was about a 2-month period between when that ended and I was supposed to start this first gig, where I really closed myself off in a room for about 6 hours a day. And I learned I had a list of these 100 songs, and I just sat there and learned them as well as I could for most of the week, a good 6-7 hours a day doing that. And again, I'm lucky that I have a good memory. I have a good retention. If I've heard a song enough times in my life, I can come pretty close to just playing it. I mean, even if it's a song I've never even played in the gig, if I've heard it enough times, I may not get the lyrics right, but I can come pretty close. So I also had a leg up in that area. But yeah, I would say it took me a good 2 months of working hours a day building the repertoire. That was tough, but I'm glad I did it.
Now, did you take some vocal training, or did you just start singing? And was that also something that became more of a self-taught thing than anything else? Because obviously, I mean, for you to be, and you've got to be trained how to use your voice. I mean, my girlfriend is a singer, and she works as a music minister now in a church here in Las Vegas. But I mean, when you're up there singing for hours upon hours, every single day, week after week, year after year, I mean, you need to know how to use your voice. How did that develop for you? Did you learn that? Or was that something that, oh, okay, I fried my voice, I need to now not do that anymore?
Yeah, it's just, it's just something you just learn by doing. I just started singing. I said, well, I'm going to have to sing. And I was always told, you don't have to be a great singer to be successful at dueling pianos. And I was like, thank God. And it turns out I do have a fairly decent voice. I just started doing it. And, youth will get you by for only so long. And then you really do have to.
You're right.
And then you do have to learn how to use that instrument. And I never took any kind of, I never took any kind of extensive training. There was one time a guy came in my early days of Crocodile Rocks, and he gave each one of us an hour-long vocal lesson, but that's it. That's all I ever did. And I just kind of learned how to pace myself so that, I don't blow my voice out. You've also got to have good equipment. You know, you've got to be able to hear yourself. So that's always a big thing. We always take a lot of care to make sure I can hear myself. So I'm not trying to hear myself in my own ear with coming out of here. And, you know, that is how you will lose your voice. And, but yeah, it's just something you learn how to do. And once you learn how to do it, you know, it's like riding a bike, you know, age will eventually catch up to you, but you make adjustments for that. You know, you do less of the things that hurt that.
Well, what's the worst thing that can happen to a dueling piano player on stage?
Man, the worst thing. It's probably just like comedy. If just a bit, I'd say a bit that just goes wrong. I'm not talking about a bit that you're trying that's just not funny, that just needs either more work or just needs, well, that just wasn't funny.
Right.
I'm talking about something that just it goes in a way people get offended by it in a way you never meant at all.
Now, is that only in light of this recent quote unquote cancel culture that we're in, or has this been something that has just been in your business for a long, long time, where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't know that they would take it this way. How do I get out of this?
No, that's been around way before cancel culture, and cancel culture now only makes it, you know, it makes it 10 times worse. There are a lot of songs, bits that you know, that I do that I just won't do anymore. The risk reward is not worth it. And the one that comes to mind, I guess about mid 2000s, a comedian friend of mine had written a hilarious song, just hilarious. I don't know if you know Todd Yawn.
Oh yeah, great guy.
Yeah. Todd was just so funny and wrote the funniest songs. And he was doing a week at the Comedy Cabana, and he did this song. You know, when people come to our club, and a lot of times they want us, it's their friend's birthday, they want us to embarrass their friend. We have all kinds of bits and material to do that.
Oh, sure.
Well, Todd wrote this hilarious song called "Girl, Your Coochie Stank." So I thought
it's a love song.
It's a love song, and it's hilarious, and you can see where this is going. 99 out of 100 people would not be offended at all, but
unless your coochie stank.
Yeah, unless it really does.
Unless your coochie smells like a dumpster fire, yeah, you're going to be a little bit offended.
I wish that had been my response. I'd be like, you know, this is just a joke, but you seem to be taking this awfully personally. But no, the worst thing that happened to me was I did that bit for a girl, and I was like, I had done it 100 times to nothing. People thought it was hilarious. One time, the girl, she got so offended, and her friends got so offended that they came up and pulled her off the stage in the middle of the bit. And you know, that's pretty much it. You know, obviously, I didn't mean to offend anybody, and it was. It just creates any kind of bit that goes wrong, that it just creates this tension in the room that even the people in there that thought it was hilarious, they're kind of sitting there going, I think some time needs to pass before we start enjoying ourselves again, you know?
Well, it really was this lady's 80th birthday. You should have been a little more sensitive to that.
Well, yeah, 80 years. You let something go for 80 years.
I wish I would have been in the room. I'd have been in the back dying laughing.
I know, man.
I would have been on the floor and I've seen you play a million times over there at Crocodile Rocks when I've been in Myrtle Beach. I always love coming out and seeing the shows. It's always entertaining, always a great time. But I can definitely see that element of where you bring somebody up on stage.
Yeah.
And now today, I mean, okay, so now you can't do "Girl, Your Coochie Stank." So I'm gonna write that down. So in case somebody decides to ask for that as a birthday song, I'm gonna say, no, my buddy Dean says "Girl, Your Coochie Stank" is not gonna be appropriate. What else have you just deleted off of your song list? or from your repertoire of how you would handle a certain situation, whether it was a bachelorette party, a birthday party, or I mean, and it was mostly, I'm guessing that it's mostly women, ladies, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm guessing it's mostly women that are offended. I mean, if you had a song, you know, dude, your balls stank, guys are going to laugh their ass off.
Right.
Typically.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You can, if there was a way to make Girl Yo Coochie Stank about straight white men, I would do that bit every night. But there's that one. There's also, there's a song that we used to do. I don't remember the name of the band, but the band had a song. The song was called "It's a Shame About Rey." And it's a cool little song. I wish I remember, but anybody could Google that on YouTube. "It's a Shame About Rey." Well, somebody wrote a parody to that. "It's a shame that he's gay."
Yeah, boy.
And the song was about getting a guy on stage, and you start singing about how suave and debonair the guy is. You're actually paying him many compliments, and then you get to the chorus, "It's a shame that he's gay." And that used to be so funny. And now I haven't, there came a time where I said, no one's even been offended by this, but I'm not risking it anymore, you know,
Right.
because all it takes is one person with a couple of 100,000 YouTube subscribers getting you on video doing that and deciding they were offended by it. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of scary, you know, the way things have gone, but you know, that's one that's gone. I won't do that anymore. We used to have a bit that people don't request it anymore, but there was a bit to the song "Joy to the World," where you would do the motions, joy to the world,
Right.
all boys and girls.
Sure.
And you'd get somebody up for their birthday, and you would, you know, you'd say, okay, you teach the entire crowd the hand motions,
Sure.
and then you have everybody sit down. You get the person whose birthday it is on stage, and you say, you weren't doing this right. I got to show you how. They stand in front of you. You become their own. And that used to go over so well. It was the funniest bit we did. People died laughing. And that's now something, again, it's something that's never caused any kind of problem, but I won't do it anymore because of the way things are. I'm, you know, it's, and because we've gone so long without doing it, it really doesn't, but it used to get requested all the time. We used to do it all the time. But that's another.
They're canceling Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, you know, why would they not go after you for doing some harmless little joke along those lines? And people, I think, when they go into a dueling piano bar, for the most part, they have an idea of what they're getting themselves into, especially if they're bringing a birthday party or a bachelorette party, and they know it's going to be very interactive. So yeah, for what you do, that's going to certainly change the dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple of signs up that say, you know, sometimes there's adult humor, and you know, anybody, there've been once or twice somebody got offended by a bit. A girl's husband was like, "Hey, my wife's a classy girl. What?" And when you sing something like that, I'm like, "Have you ever been here? Like, do you know what we do? You know, did you just want me to sing happy birthday and that's it? I'd be glad to do that if that's what you want." But generally, it's like Candid Camera. They want you to be caught in the act of being yourself and
Sure.
You know, spontaneous when you had no idea that was coming and how you react to it. But we still do the stuff we call people down. I stick to safe bits now, things that really work really hard to be offended by, that almost nobody would be offended. But yeah, it's affected. I mean, if you're really good at what you do, you can work around that type of stuff. But there sure were a lot of laughs had back in the day, you know, to some of that stuff, man.
It's so sad to see that element go away. I mean, not go away, but to be censored because you're like, you know what? I don't want to lose my job. I've got a good gig here. I don't want to have, you know, you're friends with the owner. You've been there a long, long time.
Right.
And you're probably about as bulletproof as they're going to come. I mean, you are to Crocodile Rocks what Tom Brady was in the Patriots.
Yes.
In the Patriots locker room. So, you know, but for you to be as guarded as you are and just having the awareness to go, you know what, the risk reward benefit, like you said, is not worth the hassle. And you're in a huge tourist spot in Myrtle Beach over at Broadway at the Beach. What's the best and or worst tourist audience or crazy tourist story or stories that you can recall through the years? I mean, you've got to have a book a mile thick of these in the back of your head.
Man, let's see. Well, there used to be, we used to have a pretty serious bike rally every May here in Myrtle Beach, the Myrtle Beach Bike Rally. And you never knew what was going to happen during Bike Week. And I saw some crazy stuff happen during Bike Week. It was, I mean, it was for years. That was where we in Myrtle Beach all made our money. You know, we made a ton of money that week, but it was, the bikers could get, most of them were really cool, 99%. But once they would come into Crocodile Rocks, it was never like a belligerent thing. It was just kind of anything goes. Nobody meant anything harmful, but it was nothing for girls to just get on stage and start taking their clothes off, man. And you're talking about some serious fines if they see, if officials see that happen. But it would happen like that during Bike Week, and we would kind of have to draw a line between, okay, the crowd is finding this very entertaining. We could get in a lot of trouble. How long do we let this go on? You know, and they're on stage. We had to draw a line. A couple of girls crawl on the piano one time, start taking their clothes off, and start doing things you don't even see in strip clubs, and that's that's where we had to stop it at that point. And Bike Week is a thing of the past now. They stopped doing that about 10 years ago. But that would be an appropriate time to break out "Girl, Your Coochie Stank." Yes, if I had only thought of it then, you know, I don't. that would have been great, but that's that happened.
That would have brought the house down with that crew.
Yeah, we had that. Yeah, they would. I dare you to cancel that. You know.
Yeah.
But we had a crazy thing happen when I worked. Mostly, I've always been Myrtle Beach, but we did have a club for a while in Columbia, South Carolina, which is where University of South Carolina is.
Mm-hmm.
They had a big rival week against Clemson, big rivals. So I happened to be working there this one weekend of the big game, Clemson versus South Carolina. And you have people on both sides who are paying us a lot of money to play their fight song. Oh, this side outbids Clemson. We're going to pay this fight song. And then they would give us more money. And it's just a back and forth thing. We made a lot of money off of it. Well, somebody, I don't remember who it was, said, I will give you, like $200 to desecrate this Clemson jersey. Just desecrate it, whatever that meant. We can burn it, so somebody from the other side got a USC jersey. They decided, okay, well, we're going to get this bidding war going between which jersey gets desecrated, on stage. So this one lady starts going around the room, taking up a collection of money and, from people to get whatever side she was for. I don't remember, but I just know the money got to a point where somebody said on the microphone, okay, stop. No, this, Clemson won. I don't even remember who won it, Clemson or South Carolina. I don't remember, but whatever side won was not the side this lady was going around getting money from people from. Oh, and no. She came up to me. She thought it was all my fault. She said, I just went around collecting all this money from these people. And, I said, ma'am, somebody said on the microphone, stop. We're going to stop this. We're not going to let this go any further. She didn't hear it. So I'm going like, there's no way to give these people their money back. I don't know who she got money from. I don't know how much she got from each person, but she was so angry. She was so mad. That was another time where there was just this tension in the air that people were just not entertained, and
so she's just losing it on you while you're on stage.
While I'm on stage, and I'm like, and my partner, who I haven't worked with in a long time, I don't even know where. I think he's still in Texas doing stuff, but he just threw me under the bus. He just goes, "Well, I'm washing my hands of it, man." I'm like, woo, you know. So I couldn't get that set over with fast enough. Luckily, it was close to being over. So Mark, who's the guy, a guy I work with now, he's my best friend, and he owns one of the owners of the club.
Right.
He was also working that night. He had this brilliant idea. All right, we got to fix this somehow. So he just went and got a whole bunch of free stuff, a bunch of hats and a bunch of T-shirts, and came back on stage and just said, all right, everybody, here's some free stuff, and just starts throwing everybody free hats and free T-shirts. Everybody was fine. Everybody started loving life again after that. But that was probably the moment I felt so alone. I just felt so small, you know.
The fact that your partner was letting you have the steamroller just come right over the top of you in the shape of this lady who was collecting money to torch a jersey.
Yeah, and the bit wasn't even my idea, and I didn't even tell anybody to take up a collection, or, you know, it's like I was just, you know, it was hard, man. It was hard back then. That was a rough one, you know.
Now, how reliant are you on your partner across stage when you're doing stuff? I mean, if they suck, I mean, is it easy for you to cover for them, or is it something that needs to be addressed immediately if they're getting too liquored up, if they're off key, if they're playing the wrong notes and stuff like that? I mean, how do you recover from that?
Most people
because I'm sure that's happened in all your years of doing this. I mean, I know you've run into some people that you've told me about. You're like, this guy is ugh.
Some of it you have to realize, you know, I can hear all the wrong notes this guy's playing, but the audience doesn't. They don't know.
Right.
They're just drinking and they're just yelling out, "We are the champions." They don't care. So that's why having a good ear for music is a blessing and a curse. I can hear all these things this guy's playing, but it doesn't mean he sucks. It just means his ear is not sharp. And that's just the kind of thing you have to go, well, it's no big deal. If a guy truly is having a bad night he's not connecting, he's a little too inebriated, whatever. If he is really, it's hard to, I can help to an extent if he will let me. Like if he's playing a song and he is confused or lost in the song, I can play it for him. But a lot of guys are too, you know, there've been many times I was ready and willing to help a guy. I'll play the song for you, man. But he just was oblivious to the fact that I was even trying to help.
Right.
There's not much you can do until it's your turn. Like while he's doing his thing, you just kind of support him
through it.
You realize most of the people aren't. It's not going to make them have a bad time.
Right.
You just kind of look out and you smile a little bit to people who are hearing some of the same things you're hearing. You can keep the boat afloat. You know, it's not that difficult. Put it this way, anybody that is actually working the full night is good enough to do it. You know, you don't get to that point unless you can do the gig. But it's been a couple of times with new guys that are still trying to get their legs. You just have to carry, you know, you have to let them do what they're going to do, help them as best as they can. And if he's really struggling, I just try and turn it up. You know, I just try and you know, go a little farther. So partner help is very important, you know, but you can solo the plane if you have to. But, you know, it's like also like I used to have somebody say, how can you work with a guy you've never worked with? Well, it's the same thing as, you know, two guys that have never met each other, but both trained to fly this plane can both do that.
Right.
They don't have to know each other. It helps if you have that rapport and I know where this guy's going and all the songs he knows and all that. But yeah, it's not really that hard mostly because people don't really care. They're just there to drink and have fun, you know?
Well, speaking of drinking and having a good time, you're talking about someone being inebriated on stage. I mean, I've come and seen you play, like I said, a ton of times. And that environment lends itself to people. They want to party with the piano players. So they're like, hey, I'm going to send shots up to you. And I've been there back in your drinking days because you stopped now. But I mean, there were times I was there and I would get there after my show and then come over and see you. And
Yeah.
I don't even know what happened before I got there. But afterwards, say I roll in there at 11 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden there's at least half a dozen shots coming at you up on stage.
Yeah.
You stopped drinking. I mean, how did that, when was the final, okay, I'm done?
What did I say earlier? Age will get you by for only so long. You know, youth will get you by for only so long. You can, they're just, it's cliche, but there just comes a time when it's not fun anymore. And my personality is such that I'm just an all or nothing kind of guy. I don't have a moderation mode,
Right.
like I can pace myself with my voice, but I feel like I'm offending this person if I don't accept the shot they just bought me.
Right.
So I do it. And, and with comedy, if you're doing shows on the weekend, you're doing 2 shows. Yeah, you're there a while, but you're not like I'm on stage for 3 hours, 3 separate hours, 3,
Right.
and people are not only buying me shots while I'm on stage, they're buying me shots on my break. So it was part of the, to me, for many years, it was just kind of part of the gig.
Sure.
I enjoyed it. But I got to an age where I said to myself, I cannot wake up and feel like this anymore.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple of videos. Let me show you this video of you playing Sunglasses at Night last night, and seeing myself, and I'm like, I don't even remember doing that. That was kind of the wake up call. And since I'm just so all or nothing, I either have to do something all the way or not at all. So I just decided, I mean, I was never in any kind of program or anything. I just decided to not do it, and my voice is, I feel a lot better knowing I remember everything I played that night. I know I sang it as best as I could. But yeah, just seeing a couple of videos of me over the edge a couple of times, and it was train wreck is putting it mildly. I was like, I don't ever want to, God, if somebody ever put that on YouTube, I'd just die. And I'm like, I'm never even going to let myself do that again. But it was a part of that. It was also a part of just coming to a point in my life where, there are younger guys coming up behind me who if I don't keep my chops up, and this is part of keeping my chops up, I can't ingest this stuff that's bringing me down. All of that went into making that decision. Just couldn't take doing it that many nights a week.
Well, especially during the summertime when you're running full tilt, you're working. I mean, the club's open 7 nights a week in the summer. You're working probably at least 6, if not 7, to pick up extra dough.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I try to never go beyond 4. But yeah, there've been times in my early days I worked 2 straight weeks, 2 weeks in a row.
Well, yeah, exactly. And back in the time when you were drinking. So now you've got literally working 14 days straight where people are shoving probably, I mean, you're probably knocking back at least a dozen to 15 shots a night.
It was
on top of having just a beer, chilling out afterwards.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. It was just a thing. People were very generous with what they're willing to supply you with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had fun with it for many years, but like I said, there just came a time when it was more important for me to maintain a job and health. And I just didn't want to wake up and feel like that anymore. And like I said, I wasn't the kind of person that can just take it or leave it,
Right.
So I decided to go full blown, this is all you see me drinking all night at work right now is just water. And people, I've found that people, when they want to buy you a shot and you say, I'm not doing that,
Right.
you can say, well, I don't do it when I work or anything. And they're not offended. They don't care,
Right.
it's just, so learning that people really aren't offended if I say, well, I'm just not drinking, but
Right.
there's all of that went into that, but
Well, because you get a lot of those kids too. Back when you're 22, 23 years old and you're like, I'm not drinking. Come on, don't be a baby. Come on.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
ahead and say, hey, no, I'm not drinking. Just
Yeah.
stop.
I wasn't that. I didn't have, I didn't have that type of personality to, don't ever offer to pay for dinner. I mean, I'm not the kind of person that's going to go, no, you're not paying. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I didn't have that assertive personality where I'm like, no,
Sure.
guy, I'm not drinking. I was very, very influenced by peer pressure back, even when I was younger and in my early days of that. Yeah, I was definitely a victim of that. So.
Well, and you got to be on your chops. Like you said, you've got to be on your mark when you're doing what you're doing because things change on the fly. And one of the things you have to have are, fast improvisational skills. And so one of the things I want to do is that you got to be able to handle pretty much any situation. So I'm going to have you direct. I know you're in your studio right now, which I have seen in person. It's a very impressive setup. And so I'm going to throw some stuff at you here as we wrap this up here. But I want to test your improvisational skills to see what you can do on the piano and what you can make up as far as lyrics on the fly.
I make no guarantees.
Hey, listen, I say that to myself every time before I go on stage at a show. I tell myself that. I go, I make no guarantees to this audience. You want your money back? Good luck. I'm not giving it to you.
Oh, my little dog's getting excited. She wants to see what I'm going to do now too. You actually throw. There you are. I got you. There you go.
There we go. Okay, cool.
This is setup
in there. That's a great setup that you have inside there. That is really a nice studio that you put together at your house. Like I said, I've seen it before. It's extremely impressive. I know you, and you're very meticulous about your stuff, and you've been involved in computers and gadgets for as long as I can recall. So,
yeah, I love that stuff, man. I do. That's another big personality flaw of mine. Whatever comes out, I have to have the latest and greatest of whatever it is. I have to.
I remember that for years and years and years ago.
I try to budget for that. So yeah.
Okay, so you're on stage right now, and you're like, okay, somebody throw me something to write a song about. So you know what? I'm going to keep it in vein of what we're going through right now with the let's say the election. So throw something together about our current president, Joe Biden.
Sleepy Joe. I guess you can hear that. I don't know how loud it is.
Yes, I can. I can hear it perfectly fine. Perfect.
Of course, I'm trying to think of shit. President Biden, where the hell's he been hiding? Old President Biden, his vice president, her legs been known to widen. He's been known to falter on the presidential altar. He's just a life-size version of Jeff Dunham's Walter.
Dude, I am so happy for you and all your success over there in Myrtle Beach. Crocodile Rocks is the bar that you can see Dean and Mark and all the other fantastic musicians at over at Broadway at the Beach. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Season is going to be cranking up here real soon. I know it's going to be, you guys go to 7 days here coming up like now, right?
By this time next month, yeah, we should be 7 days a week. Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. It's nice seeing stuff come back, especially after the whole pandemic thing and seeing things cranking for you guys once again and having the curfew restricted where it's where people can act like idiots until 2:00 in the morning now and not just be stopped at 11.
Yeah, and a little Abby has to say hi to you. She says,
"Oh, what a sweetheart! I remember her.
Yeah,
she's
a
great.
Good girl.
Good dog, dude. You're fantastic. Where can people find you on social media and all the different platforms?"
If I do a little bit on YouTube, I haven't in a long time, but my YouTube is if you search Piano Dean, all one word, just Piano Dean. On YouTube, my stuff should come up. But I think you can, I think you go youtube.com/piano dean. That might work. but yeah, I don't have a website or anything, but Piano Dean on Twitter. Although I don't tweet much, but I'm Piano Dean on Twitter and Piano Dean on YouTube. So you could find stuff there.
More importantly, see him in person when you get out to Myrtle Beach. Crocodile Rocks, Broadway at the Beach. My friend Dean Edwards, always good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, Derek. Thanks, man. Enjoyed it.
Listening to A Drink with Derek. Find out when Derek is appearing near you by checking out DerekRichards.com. See you next time for A Drink with Derek.